There's a photo on our mantle, my arms wrapped around Emily's waist, both of us barefoot in the sand, sunset blazing behind us like a dying star. We look like the perfect couple, newly married, drunk on love. The kind of photo people glance at and think they have it all figured out. I used to look at that picture and believe it, too. But now, every time I pass it, I see it for what it really is, a life frozen in time. We were in Bora Bora, our honeymoon, a place we'd spent over a year saving for. I wanted it to be everything, and for the first few days, it was. The air felt cleaner there, like it hadn't been touched by anything cruel. We had one of those overwater bungalows, the kind you see in travel brochures, with glass panels in the floor so you could watch the fish drift by beneath your bed. The first morning, she woke before me and watched the sunrise from the deck, wrapped in one of those thick, white robes. I remember stirring awake to the soft sound of her laughter. She was watching a baby stingray brush against the glass. I thought, this is it. This is the woman I'll build a life with. But even then, there were signs. Tiny, forgettable things you don't register until later. Like how she never set her phone down for long. How she'd tilt the screen away from me when replying to messages. I chalked it up to habit. We're all addicted to those damn things. Besides, I wasn't going to let anything ruin the illusion. Not on our honeymoon. It was the fourth night that it happened. We'd spent the day snorkeling and drinking overpriced cocktails out of coconuts. She was tipsy, her laughter loose and high-pitched. We took 1,000 photos. She wore a blue sundress that clung to her in the ocean breeze, her dark hair tied in a messy braid that made her look 15 years younger. Back in the bungalow, she slipped into the outdoor shower, and I, a little sunburned and buzzed, sprawled on the bed to let the ceiling fan dry me off. Her phone was right there, unlocked. I didn't intend to snoop. I really didn't. But the screen lit up with a new message and my eyes, traitorous things, glanced down. It was a contact saved as M. No name. Just a letter. I wish it was you here instead. I stared at the message for a full minute. My skin went cold, heart thumping in that painful, muffled way, like it didn't want to believe what it was feeling. Then another message followed. We would have already broken the bed smirking face. It felt like being punched underwater. Every sound around me got muffled. The fan, the waves, even the faint humming from the minibar fridge. All of it faded as I picked up the phone with shaking fingers. I shouldn't have looked, but I did. There were weeks, maybe months, of messages. Some flirty, some explicit, some heartbreakingly romantic. She'd sent him photos, some of the same ones she'd taken with me, but cropped. Only her. She told him how dull I was, how she felt suffocated, how she couldn't stop thinking about that night in the parking lot. Parking lot. My mouth went dry. The messages from this trip had started even before we landed. While I was asleep beside her on the plane, she had texted him a photo of her passport and a message that read, "Just boarded. Going to be hell without you." Then, during our first night on the island, while I was outside trying to photograph the stars, she had told him. He's snoring, already faced with rolling eyes. "I miss your voice." I set the phone down carefully, like it was made of glass. I couldn't feel my hands. When she came out of the shower, hair damp, skin glowing, she kissed my shoulder and climbed into bed like nothing had happened. I stayed still, paralyzed, numb. That night, I lay awake while she slept beside me, her breathing slow and steady. I memorized every inch of the ceiling, every knot in the wooden beams. I thought about what I should do. Yell? Demand answers? Call her out? But the coward in me, the man who still loved the idea of her, did nothing. The next morning, I smiled, made coffee, kissed her forehead. We took another photo that day, on the edge of the infinity pool, both of us smiling so wide it hurt. That's the one on our mantle. I began planning the rest of the trip like a man running on autopilot. I took her hiking to the summit of Mount Pahia, pretended to gasp at the view like it was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. I watched her take selfies, watched her sneak glances at her phone when she thought I wasn't looking. Every time I looked at her, I saw the messages again. I wish it was you here instead. It wasn't just betrayal, it was erasure. I was a ghost in my own marriage, a placeholder in her fantasy. By day 6, I was unraveling. I barely spoke. I let her take the lead in conversations, nodded when appropriate. She chalked it up to the sun, the food, jet lag. "You've been so quiet," she said, brushing a hand down my back. "Are you okay?" I told her I was fine. But I wasn't. I was watching our wedding collapse under its own weight. Every memory now felt corrupted. Her vows, her tears at the altar, the way she whispered, forever. The final blow came on our last night. She left her phone on the deck table while she went to get wine. I shouldn't have checked it again, but I did. I had to know. There was a video. She had sent it that afternoon. She was in the bathroom, the same one I'd brushed my teeth in minutes earlier. She stood in front of the mirror, in that same blue sundress, pulling the straps down slowly, teasingly, her smile coy. Just for you. The message read. Don't show this to anyone, face blowing a kiss. I don't know how long I stood there staring at the screen. I just remember feeling hollow. Emptied out, like someone had scooped out my insides with a ladle and left only skin behind. When she returned, she found me lying on the hammock, eyes closed. Wine, she said cheerfully. And you're not even drunk. I'm impressed. I opened one eye, forced a smile, trying to remember it all. She giggled, handing me the glass. Good. I want to remember it too. This place, it's magic. Yeah, magic. That night, she made love to me like nothing was wrong. Like we were still two people in sync, connected by something sacred. I went along with it, playing my part. But even as I touched her, held her, kissed her neck, all I could think of was that message. I wish it was you here instead. By the time we flew home, I had a plan. I wasn't going to confront her yet. Not until I had everything I needed. I was done being the fool. I was done being polite. She'd already started writing the ending of our story in someone else's hands. But I was going to finish it in mine. And when I did, she'd never forget it. When we landed back home, the autumn air greeted us like a wall. Crisp and cool, full of promise. Emily shivered and pulled her coat tighter, smiling at me as if we were returning from some enchanted journey. In a way, I suppose we were, but for entirely different reasons. She leaned into me in the cab, head resting on my shoulder, murmuring something about needing to start laundry and groceries. Her voice was soft, unguarded. She looked peaceful. I stared out the window. Inside me, something had hardened. The week in Bora Bora hadn't shattered me all at once. It chipped away piece by piece until there was nothing left but cold resolve. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to accuse. I wasn't going to leave. Not yet. No, I was going to become her shadow. Our apartment, when we entered, still smelled faintly of lavender and cedar. Emily's doing, of course. She always insisted on lighting candles before we left for trips, claiming the scent would greet us home. I used to find it charming. Now it felt rehearsed. Like everything else. She moved with ease, unpacking and tossing laundry into the basket, humming some pop song under her breath. I watched her carefully. There was no guilt in her. No hesitation. Which meant she either believed I knew nothing, or she didn't care. It's strange what you begin to notice once the illusion cracks. How someone talks. The way their eyes linger on their phone. How they smile at you with just a little too much effort, or not enough. We went through the motions that first week back. Breakfast together. Work. Dinner. Kisses goodbye. Kisses hello. But every moment was surveillance. I watched her thumb hover over her screen before typing. I noted every time she left the room for a phone call. I kept a log. Times. Patterns. Tone shifts. By the second week, I bought the tools. A GPS tracker, small enough to slip inside the lining of her purse. Recording software for her phone, synced through the cloud. A clone phone that would mirror her messages if I could ever get a clean sync while she slept. I told myself it wasn't paranoid, it was necessary. She'd already stolen something sacred from me. I wasn't going to let her get away with it quietly. There was something else, too. The man. He was the missing piece. I needed a name. A face. I needed to see him. The texts I found before were suggestive, but not explicit. She'd deleted much of their chat history. Only the most recent messages remained. But I'd seen enough. I knew there was a second phone, probably hidden or used only when she was away from me. That was the next step. The clone phone arrived on a Thursday. That night, I waited until she dozed off, curled up on her side, one arm across my chest. I gently slid her phone from under the pillow and connected the device. It took about 6 minutes to complete the sync. I watched the progress bar like it held my future. When it was done, I returned the phone exactly as it was. She never stirred. The next morning, I had her digital world at my fingertips. There were no messages from M on the primary phone. That confirmed it. He was on another line. But her browsing history gave me something better. She had logged into a private Gmail account. The address was simple. A variation of her maiden name and a number. one I'd never seen before. The password, stupidly, was our wedding date. I almost laughed. Inside that inbox were weeks of emails. Some harmless, most not. Photos, notes, reservations. A single forwarded flight confirmation from 3 weeks before our wedding. 2 seats to Montreal, booked under fake names. She had planned to see him even before we said, I do. One email stopped me cold. Subject, your gift. From m____________@gmail.com. To Emily. M. Williams@gmail.com. Can't stop thinking about that night. You and that little red thing. Still in my head. Just so you know, I still have the bracelet you left. Might never take it off. I know this is hard, but I'd wait forever. You always said you felt alive with me. Marrying him doesn't change that. I miss your fire. And your mouth. I reread it 3 times. Marrying him doesn't change that. My stomach churned. This wasn't just some late-night fling or careless mistake. This was deep. Emotional. I closed the app, hands trembling. My mind buzzed. It wasn't just infidelity. It was betrayal wrapped in affection. She loved him. Or thought she did. And me? I was the man she chose for appearances. The safe one. The loyal one. The fool. I could have confronted her right then. Shown her the messages. Demanded answers. But I wanted more. I wanted to know how far it went. If it was still happening in person. If she was lying to both of us. I wanted him to see my face someday and feel the weight of what he stole from me. So I kept playing the part of the devoted husband. That weekend, I surprised her with brunch. Brought her coffee in bed. She called me sweet. Said she missed us. As if we were the part of her life that was out of balance. Not the secret affair. Not the second phone I hadn't yet found. I smiled and kissed her forehead. The second phone revealed itself on a random Tuesday. I caught a glimpse of it in her gym bag while searching for my missing earbuds. Just the edge. Black case. Smaller model. Definitely not her main. I didn't grab it then. I waited. Memorized its place. That night, while she showered, I quietly unzipped the side pocket and slipped it out. No lock. No password. The home screen lit up with a flood of messages. Tonight. You said you'd call after 9. I'm waiting. I hate knowing he's touching you. Can't you say you're sick? There was a contact saved as W. No photo. Just a single letter. I opened the chat. Hundreds of messages. Voice notes. Photos. Plans. And that's when I saw it. A message dated the second night of our honeymoon. I'm in the shower. He's asleep. I hate this. I wish I'd run. The bed doesn't even feel like mine. I keep pretending it's your hands. Your lips. Everything else makes me want to scream. Why didn't I choose you? Something broke in me then. Not a snap. More like a slow, splintering crack that spread through my chest. I sat on the edge of the bed, holding the phone like it was radioactive. I should have felt hate, fury, disgust. But mostly, I felt nothing. I was beyond anger now. What I felt was clarity. She had chosen me. Said I do. Kissed me under the arch of roses, smiled for every photo, danced with her arms around my neck. And at the same time, she was longing for someone else. Regretting me. Fantasizing about a life where I didn't exist. Fine. If that's the game she wanted to play, I'd give her a show she wouldn't forget. Because I was done collecting evidence. It was time to rewrite the ending. It was surprising how quickly rage could become focus. Once the initial ache dulled, once the panic and disbelief faded into something quieter, colder, I found myself thinking with a clarity I hadn't known I possessed. The kind of clarity born from betrayal, like the way a frost can make everything look sharper. I kept the second phone. She hadn't noticed. Or maybe she had and assumed she'd misplaced it. If she suspected me, she gave no sign. That part of her, at least, remained consistent. The ability to lie beautifully. I kept it in my office drawer, wrapped in a sock under old tax folders. Each night, while she drifted off to sleep beside me, I went through the messages. Chronologically. Carefully. There were codes, inside jokes. Names I didn't recognize. Places I thought were mundane. A dental office, a yoga class, the downtown art museum on Wednesdays when admission was free. I began mapping her movements without her realizing it, tracing her deceptions back weeks, even months. The affair hadn't started on the honeymoon. That had only been the boiling point. It began 4 months before the wedding. A co-worker. Marketing firm. Older than me by about 8 years. Divorced once. No kids. Jason. I found his last name buried in a forwarded calendar invite. He was the M from her texts. His middle name, Michael. Jason Michael Anders. He'd met Emily at some networking event her company held in late spring. Drinks turned into late-night projects. Projects turned into lunch meetings. And then, of course, into the rest. I found photos on the burner phone. Not many, but enough. A restaurant I didn't recognize. A blurry mirror selfie of her in a dress I'd never seen. One taken from behind. Her walking down a hotel hallway, heels in hand, bare feet on the carpet. He captioned it, "I'm still tasting you." I stared at that one the longest. The first thing I did was install the security cameras. She'd rolled her eyes when I mentioned wanting to upgrade the house. "You're turning into your dad," she teased. "Better safe than sorry," I replied with a laugh. I positioned them carefully, one facing the front door, one in the living room, and one overlooking the hallway just outside the bedroom. I left blind spots, too. Gaps that would make someone feel safe if they were hiding something. I made them obvious enough that she could feel them and think, "He won't see this." I also bugged her car. A small GPS unit under the driver's seat. Easy to overlook. Hard to detect. Her patterns became predictable. Twice a week, she detoured on the way home from work. Once to the gallery, where she claimed she was helping her friend prepare an exhibit. Another to a private gym I knew didn't offer walk-ins. Jason's car was parked nearby both times. The Real break came one Friday afternoon. She said she had a team-building dinner. I pretended to believe her. Even packed her a little snack for the ride, trail mix in a Tupperware. "Don't forget to drink water," I smiled. She kissed me on the cheek and left. I gave her a 10-minute head start, then followed her. I used a rideshare app, paying in cash at a gas station kiosk for credit. Took the long route downtown, stayed a few cars back when she turned onto 5th and Vine. She pulled into a small lot behind a boutique hotel. The same one where we'd stayed on our first anniversary. She didn't hesitate, just parked, grabbed her purse, and walked in like she'd done it 1,000 times. I didn't go in after her. Instead, I waited, sat across the street in a bar with wide windows, ordered a soda, and watched the entrance like a hunter. 2 hours passed, then 3. She didn't come out. By then, I had what I needed. I walked into the hotel, stopped at the front desk, and leaned in like I was a concerned husband. "My wife checked in earlier," I said, eyes wide with fabricated worry. "But she left her insulin kit at home. I need to get it to her room." The young woman behind the counter looked unsure. "I'm not really supposed to. It's an emergency," I whispered, lowering my voice. "Please." She blinked, hesitated, then checked the registry. "Room 406, she said softly. "Please be quick." I nodded and mouthed, "Thank you." I didn't knock. I stood in front of 406 with my heart pounding in my ears. I wanted to burst in, catch them, rip apart the illusion she'd built, and throw it in her face. But no. Instead, I slid a thin slip of paper beneath the door. "Smile? You're being recorded." Then I turned and left. The fallout didn't come right away. She got home late that night, smelling of hotel soap and something faintly floral. She changed quickly, brushed her teeth, slid into bed beside me. "You okay?" I asked gently, tracing a hand down her arm. "Yeah. Long day. Team dinner went well." She hesitated. "Yeah. Good bonding." I kissed her shoulder. "Glad you're home." She murmured something I didn't catch and turned away. The next morning, she was rattled. Nervous, jittery. Phone glued to her hand. I caught her deleting texts, rapid flicks of her thumb. She barely ate, barely spoke. That afternoon, I received an email from an anonymous address. "I don't know who you are, but stay the hell away from her." No signature, no name. But the threat was clear. I smiled. Jason was scared. Perfect. Because now the chessboard was set. He was playing defense. And I had barely moved a single piece. I spent the next week setting up the stage. I invited friends over. Hosted a little wine night. Made sure to include a few from her office. I needed them to see us. Laughing. Together. Still solid. One of them mentioned Jason in passing. Emily stiffened. "Oh, he's been stressed lately," she said quickly. "Probably taking on too much." Her voice cracked at the end. I poured her another drink and wrapped my arm around her shoulders. "Some people just don't know when to quit," I said lightly. She didn't look at me for the rest of the night. I started getting bolder. Left my own forgotten items around. A USB labeled wedding photos that actually contained a full folder of her messages with Jason. I left it in the shared drawer in our home office. I let it sit for a week. Then it was gone. She never mentioned it. The next night, she initiated sex for the first time in weeks. And it felt like morning. Her touch was different. Desperate. Not for connection, but for silence. She was trying to rewrite her guilt with intimacy. I let her. Because the final curtain was coming. And when it did, it wouldn't be a whisper behind closed doors. It would be a thunderclap in public. A show no one could unsee. There's something poetic about using love as a weapon. In the weeks after discovering the depth of Emily's affair, I began collecting emotions the way a storm collects pressure. Quietly, invisibly, dangerously. No one saw it coming. Certainly not her. I made a decision. I wouldn't just leave. I wouldn't just confront her in some backroom confession. That was far too small for what she'd done. She'd made a mockery of our marriage in secret. So I would expose the truth in the only way fitting, publicly, completely, and irrevocably. It started with the invitations. Our one-year anniversary was approaching. A perfect excuse for a party. I framed it as a casual celebration, a thanks for supporting our first-year gathering. Friends, family, a few of her co-workers, even Jason. Of course, Jason. I sent the invites out with a digital RSVP and created a shared photo drive for guests to upload their favorite memories of us. Everyone loves nostalgia. Everyone wants to be part of a love story. She was thrilled at first. "I can't believe you did all this," she said, voice trembling with emotion. "You've been so sweet lately." I kissed her hand. "You deserve it." She cried that night while folding laundry. I watched from the doorway, silent. The location was key, a charming event space near the botanical gardens. Not too fancy, not too casual. Just enough polish to justify the catering, the decorations, the ambience. I even hired a photographer. Said I wanted to capture the magic. Emily offered to help, of course. I let her choose the color scheme. I let her believe this was about us. But it was never about us. It was about them. I spent hours curating the slideshow. At first glance, it would look like any couple's anniversary montage. Childhood photos, our first date, the engagement, the wedding. I used soft piano music, the kind that makes people sigh and squeeze hands. But halfway through, the tone shifted. Subtly at first. Photos that didn't make sense. A hotel receipt. A blurry screen grab of a parking lot camera. Texts, one line at a time, fading in over black backgrounds. I hate pretending he's the one. You make me feel alive. He's just safe. This week has been hell without you. And then a final message. I wish it was you here instead. Her exact words from our honeymoon. The same night, I kissed her under the stars, thinking we were writing the first page of a lifelong story. That text was the last image before the screen faded to black. Then the silence. Just silence. I stood at the back of the room when it played. Everyone had been laughing, toasting, taking pictures. Emily beamed beside me in a pale blue dress, holding a flute of champagne. The lights dimmed. The projector clicked on, and everything changed. Gasps. Then confusion. Then whispers. I didn't move. I watched her face. It was like watching glass shatter in slow motion. First disbelief. Then horror. Then the slow turn of her neck as she looked for me in the crowd. I didn't hide. I met her gaze. She mouthed my name, but no sound came out. Someone muttered, "Is this a joke?" Jason had gone pale. His drink slipped from his hand, shattering on the floor. Emily turned toward him instinctively. And in that moment, with 100 eyes watching, she gave herself away. I walked onto the small stage. Cleared my throat. The room froze. "Thank you all for coming," I began, voice calm. "Tonight was meant to be a celebration. A thank you to the people who've supported our marriage." I paused, looked out across the room. But sometimes, celebrations reveal more than you expect. There was a silence so thick, it felt like a second skin. I discovered the truth a few weeks after our honeymoon. I didn't say anything right away. I wanted to believe it was a mistake. A moment of weakness. I turned to Emily then. But it wasn't. It was deliberate, ongoing, and cruel. Her lips parted, but I raised a hand. "Let me finish." She lowered her gaze. "I won't drag you through every detail. I think the images spoke for themselves. But I will say this. When someone marries you, stands in front of your friends and family, and promises you forever, only to betray you before the ink on the license dries, that's not a mistake." I looked at Jason. "That's a choice." He looked down. Coward. I faced the crowd again. "I know this is awkward. And I'm sorry. But I didn't want to disappear quietly. I didn't want to be the guy who found out his wife was cheating, and just packed a bag and left. That's not me. I took a breath. I wanted you all to see who I really married. I wanted her to see what it looks like when the mask comes off. Silence. A few people stood, unsure whether to leave or clap or say something. Emily stepped forward, shaking. Please, don't do this here. I already did. She burst into tears and fled the room. Jason followed. Like a dog. The room emptied slowly. Some guests stayed behind. Awkward hugs. A few murmured apologies. One woman actually thanked me for the courage. I didn't feel courageous. I felt hollow, but victorious. At home, her things were already boxed. I'd hired a moving service. Paid extra for discretion and speed. Her suitcase and essentials were at the front door. The rest would follow. She came in around midnight. Red-eyed. Mascara streaked. You destroyed me, she said softly. No, I replied. You did that yourself. I just turned on the light. I loved him, she whispered. I nodded. You just didn't love me enough to be honest. She looked like she wanted to fight, to explain, to beg, but the words never came. She walked out quietly. That night, I stood in the living room and stared at the wedding photo we'd once framed with so much hope. I took it down, opened the back, slipped the image out, and placed it in a drawer. Then, in its place, I slid in the final frame of the slideshow. I wish it was you here instead. And beneath it, I wrote, she meant it. I just finally believed her. But I wasn't done yet. Jason had more to lose. I'd done my homework. His position at the firm? Built on appearances. Clean record. Respectable image. I had every message. Every video. Every moment of their affair saved and dated. Many of them conducted on company time. A few. In company-owned locations. Evidence. Lots of it. I drafted a letter. Attached everything. Printed 3 copies. One for human resources. One for the executive board. And one for his ex-wife. I mailed them the next morning. That evening, I got a text from an unknown number. You're a vindictive son of a bitch. I smiled. Then came another. She's pregnant. My smile faded. The world tilted slightly. But before I could reply, before I could breathe, another message lit the screen. And it's not yours. I stared at the screen for so long, I forgot to blink. She's pregnant. And it's not yours. The room felt colder than it should have. Silent, except for the faint hum of the refrigerator. My hands, steady for weeks through deception, surveillance, and confrontation, now trembled as if someone had suddenly cut the strings that held me upright. It wasn't just betrayal now. It was legacy. It was final. I didn't reply right away. I needed space. Air. Sanity. I walked. Through the neighborhood, past the rows of pristine hedges and quiet homes that still believed in family dinners and shared Netflix accounts. Every house seemed to whisper what mine had failed to be. When I returned home, I poured a glass of whiskey I didn't remember buying. And I sat. It took 3 hours to respond. Not mine. Good. It never should have been. Tell her I said congratulations. She finally gets the life she threw mine away for. I turned off my phone and didn't look at it for 2 full days. Emily tried calling, then texting, voicemails, emails, all unanswered. Her tone shifted from apologetic to angry to begging. She wanted to explain, to talk, to find a way through this. I let her messages pile up like fallen leaves. Harmless. Dead. I didn't block her. I wanted her to know I was there, just not for her. Jason, on the other hand, didn't reach out again. I heard about his unraveling through mutual acquaintances. Word got around fast after the email bombshell I dropped. Suspended. Under investigation. Apparently, someone leaked snippets of the texts online. I don't know who, but I have my theories. And honestly, I hope it burns. Weeks passed. I moved into a loft downtown, sparse, open, quiet. The kind of place that echoes when you breathe too deeply. I liked it. It gave me room to think. I started therapy. Not because I wanted to heal in some cliché self-help kind of way, but because I needed someone to witness the debris. To say, yes, that happened. I brought the second phone with me to the first session. Set it on the table like a sacred relic. My therapist, an older woman with silver-rimmed glasses and an expression like a calm sea, simply nodded. Let's start there, she said. Divorce proceedings were simple. Thanks to the prenup, I almost didn't sign. Funny how the thing she once said was just a formality became my salvation. She didn't get the condo. Didn't get a dime more than she deserved. No alimony. No shared assets. She tried to contest the terms, citing the pregnancy, but my lawyer shut it down fast. "You're not the father," he said bluntly. "Not your problem." When the paperwork arrived in the mail, I sat with it for an hour before signing. Then I used the same pen to draw a single line through our wedding date on the calendar. Done. Erased. The night before what would have been our second anniversary, I received a knock at my door. I hadn't ordered anything. Wasn't expecting anyone. I opened it cautiously. Emily stood there, soaked from the rain, hair plastered to her cheeks. She looked tired. Hollow. There was a weight to her I didn't recognize, not pregnancy. Something deeper. "Can I come in?" she asked. I didn't move. I need to say it to your face." Still, I hesitated. She held up her hands, empty palms. "No tricks. I swear." I stepped aside. She walked in slowly, looking around the room like she was trying to memorize it. Or mourn it. "This is nice," she said. "Minimal. Clean. I prefer quiet now." She nodded. "I don't blame you." Then she sat. And finally, she spoke. "I didn't plan it this way," she began. "I know that sounds cheap. Like an excuse. But it's the truth. I didn't mean to fall in love with him." I remained silent. I thought I could have both. The safety of you. The thrill of him. I was selfish. So stupid. And when I realized it was real, that it wasn't just about lust, I panicked. "You married me," I said flatly. She nodded, tears in her eyes. "I did. And I tried to convince myself it was the right thing. That I could forget the rest. But I couldn't." She looked up at me. "You were too good. You never deserved any of it." "That's the first honest thing you've said to me." She didn't flinch. "I'm keeping the baby," she said. "That's your choice." He left. I blinked. "Jason?" She nodded. "After the fallout. Said it was too messy. Too much heat. He's back with his ex. Or maybe someone new. I don't know." I felt nothing. No vindication. No pity. Just a calm void. "So now you're alone," I said. She looked down. "Not quite," she whispered. "I have the baby." A long silence stretched between us. And then she stood. "I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I just needed you to see me one last time." "I've seen enough." She gave a trembling nod, then turned to leave. At the door, she paused. "I loved you once. I swear I did. I hope someday you figure out what that word means." And then she was gone. Months passed. The house was sold. The ring pawned. The wedding photos deleted. I kept the slideshow file, though, not to relive the pain, but as a reminder that even the prettiest stories can rot from the inside. I started running again, picked up painting, joined a weekend book club full of old widowers and newly divorced men trying to make sense of their lives. And slowly, I came back to myself. Not all at once, but piece by piece. Sometimes, I still dream of the bungalow. The soft lap of waves beneath the floor. Her laughter in the shower. The hammock swaying gently as I looked up at a sky full of stars. And then, always, the message. "I wish it was you here instead." But in the dream, it's me writing it. Only I'm not talking about her. I'm talking about the man I used to be. The one who believed. The one who loved without armor. And sometimes, just sometimes, I wish he were here instead.